Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my Thursday core talk. Just getting set up here, trying to print out some notes. We'll see if that works. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Nick. So good to see you. Thank you for being here. So today we're talking about what you don't do and why that matters. So the topic of today's core talk is what you don't do matters. And I want to dive into why I decided to speak on this subject, because it's actually very dear, hey Lori, to my heart and to my process. It was a huge tenet of the Pilates. Yes, Caitlin, you do need this. It was a huge tenet of the Pilates work that I did. And I was reminded of this a week ago when I was talking, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I was talking with a client of mine, and I had worked with her about a year ago after her knee surgery. And we're working together again now. And she said to me, I have to attribute my full recovery from my knee surgery to the work that we did together, to the work that I did with you. And she said, it wasn't just what we did in the work, but it was what we didn't do. And it was interesting to hear that. And I said, 100%, that's such an interesting point. Now, as we were working in her session, there was a moment in her session in which I asked her to bring her knees up one at a time, and she brought them up at the same time. And she said, I should be able to do this. I want to be strong. I should be able to do this. And we had a moment of realizing, wait a second, it's very hard for our egos to not do, right? So I wanted her to not do that, and her ego was getting in the way. So I'm going to get into resistance. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's important. What is the value of not doing? We're going to talk about how to know what not to do, because that's kind of a challenging and specific process, and it's pretty subtle. And then we're going to talk about the way I see resistance to this in clients that I've worked with in the past, and then how we can break through that resistance. Okay? So going back to this tenet of philosophy, so this tenet of Pilates, which is a primary philosophy that I use in my work and that I was introduced to at age 23. When I came to Pilates, I had major back pain. I had had back pain for 7 years, chronic back pain starting from age 16. And I got into the studio, and I was basically taken back. I was a dancer at the time, flying across the room, kicking my leg up to the ceiling, doing splits, all of these things. And my Pilates teacher, who was my aunt at the time, basically put the reins on and started to teach me what not to do. And she said to me, Joseph Pilates, in Pilates, pain is not gain. So contrary to what you've been taught, this was the 1990s, so through the 80s, I was born in 75, so through the 70s, 80s, pain is gain, work so hard. This was the first time I had actually heard that. Pain is not gain. Now, we are at a more conscious place with a lot of our fitness forms, not just Pilates, but Joseph Pilates had really brought that focus of pain is not gain. It was the first time I had heard that. So I'm like 23, it's like, oh, what does this mean? So she also told me the story of our master teacher, Romana Kryzanowska. So Romana Kryzanowska went to Joseph Pilates as a young dancer. She danced for Balanchine. And Mr. B, as they called him, would send his dancers who had injuries over to Joseph Pilates. This is in New York City back in the day. So Romana, she died maybe 5 years ago, and she was 90 then. So, we're talking, I don't know what year. And she told, Romana's story was that she came to Joe Pilates for an ankle injury. And she says, he didn't do anything to my ankle at all. And he said, I'm going to fix you in 5 sessions. But he didn't touch her ankle. And she said, she was like, who is this guy? This makes no sense. We're not doing anything here. I'm not going to be fixed. And after those 5 sessions, her ankle problem disappeared. So it was the not doing that saved her. Okay, so why is it important that we have this, embrace this not doing? And what is the doing? What is the part of doing that's hurting us? So inflammation, right, and injury, these issues in our body that cause pain, typically comes from overuse and incorrect use. So we are stuck in our overuse habits. We are using things too often. We are stuck in our incorrect patterns. So the way we're using our bodies is not in alignment. And by staying in these habits, we create inflammation and pain. So it's important for us to identify what needs to be removed in terms of our habits. Second reason not doing can be very helpful is just like Romana. Sometimes when we try to fix a problem by facing that problem or going in and messing with the problem, so Caitlin, we were talking, maybe this is applicable, going in and messing with the problem, we can actually make it worse. My aunt, who was she's a Pilates guru, Janice Dulac, and she was my first teacher, she said that she tried to fix her back by stretching her back and moving into her back, and she thought that was the way to fix it. But in fact, it was going a different direction, focusing on other muscles, like Romana, to strengthen other parts of her that needed to be strengthened and stay away from the back. Okay? And that was miraculously helpful. So sometimes when we try to fix the problem and go in there and manage it, we actually make it worse, right? So not doing it is important that way. The third thing I want to talk about in terms of why not doing is important is our habits, right? So our habits in our bodies are, yes, Caitlin, so applicable beyond the physical as well. Our habits are our ways of compensating. A lot of our habits, the unhealthy habits that we don't even really know are happening, are our ways to compensate and avoid weakness. So you might be, let's talk about Soul Cycle. A lot of you are on the bike, not right now, but you have been. Spinning is something a lot of people have done. They're on a bike. Okay, so because people are weak in their core muscles, they're weak in their glutes, they're weak in their hips, they go up into their shoulders and they use their upper body to compensate and to hold themselves up on a bike, especially when they have to go out of the saddle. If you know what that means you're coming out of the seat. And the compensation becomes the habit. And then that habit becomes the way to be. And every time we use that habit, we are increasing the problem of the weakness, right? We're avoiding weakness. And we're ultimately avoiding the pain of facing the weakness. Because if you remove the habit and you don't do the habit, you're not allowed to do the habit, then you actually have to face your weakness, right? So I see a lot of this when there's an exercise called the side kicks where clients are lying on the side. Most of you who are here have done them before. And you bring your leg forward and you bring your leg back. The hips like to wobble, right? And if the hips wobble, which again is a compensation for weakness, the leg can go all the way to the nose and maybe all the way back. But when we ask you to remove the habit, don't let the hips move, then the exercise is limited. You're not going to go as far forward. You're not going to go as far back. So now we're going to transition into, actually, I'm going to save that for later because that's a challenging thing. So so for us to not do in those cases is challenging for us psychologically. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the resistance piece. So let's talk a little bit about how to know what not to do. Because again, a lot of my clients, they come to me, they have back pain or knee pain or shoulder pain or whatever kind of pain it is. and they don't quite know why. They're exercising, they're stretching, and they don't know that the way that they're moving is actually causing them pain. So they need an eye, someone to look at them and say, this is how. So that's one of the ways. That's sort of that's the best way. If you can get private instruction, if you can get some eyes on you, if you can get some, what's the word I'm looking for? Intelligent is the word, or just knowledgeable eyes on your body, then things can be highlighted, right? You need that outside perspective, just like you need a therapist sometimes to say, oh, hey, when you're thinking like that, it's actually causing you pain and you weren't able to see it yourself. So eyes, if you can get solo eyes, private instruction, that's a great way. With knowledgeable eyes. You don't want to get private instruction from someone who doesn't understand that. Let's say you're not going to do that. Next level for you to test and say, what is not working for me? Pain, okay? Pain during a movement. It is extremely obvious, and this is very hard for us to embrace. Pain during a movement. So again, pain is not gain in Pilates and in any fitness. That is my philosophy. Now, there's good pain and there's bad pain. So the bad pain, this is where you have to, it's a little subtle. You got to start learning what the bad pain is. So the bad pain is the pain that feels like a strain or an injury. It feels like joint pain. It feels like maybe the muscles being torn. That is not a good pain. Now, the good pain is the challenge of the work and the abdominals or the muscles getting a little fatigued because you're working them in an intense way. That's okay pain. But again, that pain can move into this other aspect of how you figure out what not to do. And sometimes we got to figure out if that but that energy and that effort is the correct effort for you. And you would need to experiment with that after knowing how you feel after a session. Okay, so we've got pain during the session. That's one way to know. That's a very obvious way, okay? And then we have the pain after the session. So I have a lot of clients who sometimes will work with, let's say they've come to me with previous back pain. Now they're coming to me and they're working with me during a session and they feel great during the session. It was awesome. I'm feeling good. I'm checking in. How are you feeling? I feel great. Everything feels great. But after the session, a day later or a couple days later, their back starts to act up. So we have to listen to that. Even if you don't feel pain during your workout, if you feel pain after your workout, that again is another little trigger or another little note in your brain that's telling you we got to make adjustments. Okay? So we've got how do we know what not to do if you feel pain? If somebody's watching you and they tell you what's going on that you shouldn't be doing and you trust them. If you feel pain after your session. And then this is another big one. For those of you who, it's kind of interesting because as a dancer, I ended up learning, what were right movement patterns. But a lot of times I'm not laughing at people. I'm laughing about this thing, which is a thing. If you've never taken a dance class or you've never had different movement patterns like Zumba, in your life, and then all of a sudden you take a Zumba class or you take Pilates or you take yoga and the teacher's asking you to do something with your body that your body has never done before, if that thing feels really weird and awkward, and this is super important for everybody right now who is working out online and you don't have a teacher watching you, this is key. If your body feels like it shouldn't be doing that, another signal, this is something not to do. We're going to remove this. Okay. So let's transition into, because all of those things seem sort of obvious, right? Like, this hurts me. All right, I shouldn't do it. I felt bad after that session. Maybe I need to do something else. I'm going to change it next time. Wow, my body feels like it should not be going in this direction. I shouldn't do it. This all feels very, again, obvious. Like, as a human, why wouldn't we just not do that thing? And here comes the resistance piece. So let's go back to my client who was talking to me about the knee surgery and how what we didn't do helped her. So, and we're in the session now, and she's doing something where I'm like, no. I love this. Mel said, oh my God, thank you. I really hurt my wrist and had to get over my ego. Here we go. To let my instructor know in the chat online that she needed a modification exercise. This is big. Thank you, Mel. So my client's doing this, and she says, and I said, no, one leg at a time. Please don't do that. You just told me. Yeah, exactly. You just told me that your back has been hurting you. So when I say lift your knee up one at a time, I need you to do that. So, and she said to me, she said, but then I don't feel strong. And I should be able to do this because I'm strong. And I said, okay, oh, I see. Now, I learned this at a young age because I had been in pain for 7 years, and I was young and healthy, and I was told not to do things. And it was, to be honest, I can't remember psychologically how I felt about it, but I accepted it because my teacher was my aunt, and it was like, after my first session, I felt such a difference. It became very clear to me. So ego, 100% ego. Okay. We want to, if you are a doer, this call is for you, by the way. If you're in pain, this call is for you. But if you are a doer, it is extremely hard for you to not do. Period. I don't care if it's, at home, you're supposed to be resting for the weekend. I don't care if it's in a class with other people around. I don't care if you're in your own space and the teacher's not even really seeing you, or they're not totally paying attention. You have the choice to not do, but you won't do it because you believe that doing means you're working hard. It means you're valuable. You are a valuable aspect of our society. Okay. You're doing your part. Okay. We have this doer mentality that's extremely hard to extract and shift. So we got to check that. Check your ego, right? Or not even check it, not like, check it like, excuse me, step back. That's one way to do it. That's actually kind of a nice, try that. That's a nice way. But also just looking at it like, why? Why? The other thing, we're doers, we're also kind of followers, right? We're taught in school, you better do what the teacher tells you, or you're going to be in trouble. I think it was a high school teacher. It's so funny. I remember this. Like, why do you wait at a red light? It was a high school teacher. He said, why do you wait at the red light when it's clear? It's 10 o'clock at night. There's 0 cars around. And for some reason, you're just stopping at that light because the red light means it's safe. But it's safe to go. But we have this ingrained in us. It's just an interesting thing to think about, our obedience level. So if the teacher says, lift your leg up, we do it. It's very hard to not be good listeners, right? So we're doers and we're good listeners. That means we're good people. So we try to just do. And we don't like to feel weak, right? So that goes back to that habit. The habits are compensation for weakness. And when we face our weakness and we actually go into the weak spots, that's where we get stronger. Okay? That's where we get stronger. So let's see. So my number one reason my clients resist not doing is because they think they should be strong enough to do it. The second thing, and I 100% fall into this category, and I'm sure a lot of you do, is the FOMO and is the fun. Like, I love spinning. It's so fun. I love dancing, taking dance class and doing all the really cool moves that I used to be able to do. I love, going to that place and pushing myself. It's it's exhilarating. It gives you a super high. But when I overdo it, and I know I shouldn't, I have to embrace the quiet part of me. I have to embrace the part of me that needs a rest, right? And I have to let her, the girl who wants to have fun, know that we're going to have fun again, but we got to take a break. So your desire to have fun can often get in the way of this too, right? It's not fun to modify. It isn't, guys. A lot of clients that come to me, in the studio, it's very hard, especially with New Yorkers who are go, 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 go. They don't want to slow down because it's not really fun. It's like eating kale. Pilates is the kale. It's so good for you, but it's not fun. It's not like eating an ice cream sundae. Okay. So the fun aspect needs to be kind of addressed as well. And then the third way, so this is like, So this is the other, and I was talking about this in the example of the sidekicks. So the other way, or the other thing I see in terms of this resistance is resisting actually the challenge, okay? So when we so not doing sounds like, oh, that should be easier, right? Things should be easier if I don't do. My body will feel better, things will be easier. But in fact, sometimes when we're asking you to not do the habit thing, so we're asking you, you're doing your side kicks. Again, I'm using that example. The legs are going forward, the legs are going back, and your habit is to move the hips. And when you take that out, then whoa, guess what? You have to use way more muscle. You got to use those weak parts, right? Or the shoulders up. The shoulders up. I remember having a neck issue when I was a dancer, and I took an entire dance class without using my arms. Again, because I had learned from Joseph Pilates that I needed to leave that part alone if it was speaking to me. So I left it alone. I took this dance class without any arms, and oh my God, my abdominals were activated. My core was so much stronger after that class. My hips were stronger. Everything felt alive. The things that I had been ignoring by using my shoulders, right? So not doing can be challenging because it actually, again, addresses the weakness, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to not do. Okay, so those are so we went over why it's important to not do, right? We went over how you can sort of assess and know what it is you shouldn't be doing. We went over the resistance pieces. So we want to check our ego, right? When we're in a place of like, man, I should be able to do this. We can say to our ego, not today. Because here's the truth, guys. When you limit the not doing, when you limit the doing, what's around the corner from that is like incredible strength. Again, with Pilates, you go in, you're doing this, you're doing that, but there's a lot you're not doing. And your weakness, the thing that is totally limiting your strength, totally blocking you. It is a block. Okay? You're not going to be able to move on. If you stop that thing, you take a step back, you do the other things that you're supposed to do, your strength, your superhuman, superhero power, which I felt after training in Pilates, I could dance and fly across the room. I remember feeling that was amazing, is there for you. So it's again, you feel like it's almost like pulling the arrow back to shoot pulling the bow back to shoot the arrow way further. So that stepping back is actually what's going to make you stronger. Okay. So think about that the next time you're in that position. And then, playing with the FOMO, there's a million, we have so much time to go do all the crazy stuff. Let's, really, and also playing with that habit, that like discipline habit of, I'm going to pull my shoulders down. I'm going to keep my shoulders down this whole workout. That's freaking hard, man. I'm not going to use my shoulders. That's so hard. It's a beautiful way to have discipline as well, eliminating the excess habit. So your 2 assignments. I want you to take inventory because we're all pretty much, hey Mona, you're here. We're all pretty much we're all mostly working out online. And if we're not working out online, we're running outside. We're basically doing our own training. Unless you're working in person and privately with somebody. If you're working privately with somebody, awesome. And that person actually should be giving you very detailed feedback. And if they're not, come talk to me because we can talk about that. It's really good to get that assessment from the eye that can see where your habits are. So you're working out, you're doing these things. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a moment of reflection. I want you to just sit down with a piece of paper. And I want you to, and this can be about your workouts, okay? You can do 1 page on workouts, because obviously this stuff applies to everything, as Caitlin said. It applies to everything. So 1 page can be about your workouts and your physical activity. 1 page can be about diet. I'm just going to tell you, I'm in such a great place this week because I stopped. I did some not doing with certain foods, and I have so much more mental clarity right now. And I was again reminded that what you don't do is essential, matters so much. My brain function is so much better because I'm not eating certain things, okay? So you can do this with diet. You can do this with personal relationships. You can do this with your workouts. You take your paper and then you just go into intuition, because you do know. You know more than you think you know. And I want you to write down the things you're doing in your body that you think aren't great for you. Okay. So like right off the top of my head, I can tell you one. I'm taking some HIIT classes and working with personal trainers, and full sit-ups for me, which they have me do. I can tell you right now that would go down on my list, even though I want to be able to do it, even though I want to feel like I can do this. I'm in a place where I can do this. No, it's actually not good for me. And I know that inside. It's not good. I can give you another one. It's not good for me to not foam roll and not stretch after. It's not good for me to just skip over the restorative stuff. Okay. So write down the things in your physical repertoire, whatever you're doing right now, the things that you think aren't good for you. That's step 1. And step 2 is, if you can do it for 2 weeks, that would be great. If you can do it just for the next week, that will be good too. I want you to experiment. I want you to step into your power and experiment in your workout class with stepping back and potentially risking the teacher saying to you, come on, Caitlin, you can do it. Come on, Denise, come on, Mel, push up, do that push up. You have to step back. You have to have a little bit of confidence. Okay. And try to take those things out and just see, how do you feel? And you can take those things out. You can also replace them, right? So Mel mentioned a modification. So you're not going to do the push-up that way, but you can do the push-up in a different way. Okay. You can do it or like Mel said, which I think is great, is ask for help, ask for your teacher to give you a different way. Okay. So that's your assignment. I love that everyone is here. Thank you so much for being here. And if you know anybody who you think this talk would be great for, if you don't mind sending it along, it will be on IGTV. I think it's so important, especially right now, that we're not live in rooms with people and teachers who can actually stop us and say, hey. So all of you are pretty intelligent physically, the people who are here. And you might know a lot of people who are, again, working out online, and they don't have the physical awareness and they don't have the confidence. Thank you, Mel. They don't have the confidence to really stop and slow down and pay attention and say no. So if you would share with them, I think this is important for this time. So thank you so much, everybody. So good to see you. I appreciate your support, and I will see you next week. I'm actually speaking with Jennifer Califf. She is a hormone specialist. She's an integrative nutrition coach, and she works on the hormone piece through diet and wellness, which I think is thank you, Nick. Yay, Nick. I think is so important too. So come join that next week, 3:00 Eastern time. Love you guys. Thank you, Lisa. See you later. Bye.